So now that we have our text set up, we now need to make it look nice, make sure everything fits, and we also need to add some visual elements because text alone is not going to be enough to visually communicate all of the information on this brochure. Also, I want you to take note at the very bottom of my screen, I have this little 12 errors box. So if I double click that, this is my pre-flight box that tells me what all my errors are. So it's basically because you can see that most of the text is missing. I have overset text. If I click on that, it shows me that this panel has overset text at the bottom. Excellent. What an excellent tool this is. And then if I double click text frame on 2 here, it's telling me that I also have overset text at the bottom of this panel. And then it tells me all the fonts that I have missing and where they're missing. We have quite a few instances here. And if you double click them, it actually highlights them for you. So imagine if you had a 200-page document, you could locate each and every instance just by double clicking on this pre-flight box. Again, how does that pre-flight box come up? You go to the bottom of your page, click on your error button, and it will give you all of the information you need to make your corrections here. Once you correct them, you get a nice little green light with 0 errors. So the first thing I'm going to do is work on panel 1. Now, panel 1, I'm going to highlight the text with my text tool. I can also just click anywhere inside the box here and do a Control A. I can set up my text here. I have one single text box for all of my text. If I click on the alignment tools at the top middle here, I can play with all bits and pieces of this text. But what if I want to treat the headline here differently from the rest of this text? Well, I can do that in a single text box, but if I want to do anything special with it and I want much more control over it, my best bet is to highlight that text, Control X, get rid of it, and draw a text box onto my pasteboard and Control V and paste it over here. Why would I do that? Well, I want it to I want to have more control over the placement of that box, so I'm going to create an individual box for that. And now my selection tool over here, I don't need all this space for this text, and I'm going to move that off to the side as well. Because you know what we need on this front panel? We probably need an image that looks great for this panel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the toolbox and select the rectangle frame tool. Now the frame has an X in it, meaning it contains an image or a graphic. And if this is full bleed, then I need to draw a frame that goes from one corner of the fold, but all the way to that red bleed line. So it bleeds outside of your trim right here. And now I need to know what size that is. So I can actually go up. This is my frame. It's still selected. I can go up to the top here, and it's giving me a width and a height. So for that particular image, I need about 4 inches. If I round that up, 4 by 9 inches, let's say. Now, if we're working with 300 dots per inch because the destination of this brochure is for print, we need to take this updated 4 or upgraded 4 inches times 300. So we need a 1200 dot per inch image to go on this front cover. So that is the way to, you just have to do some simple math. So I'm already ready to go here in Pexels, pexels.com. This is a free source with copyright free images. And I've typed in the word graduation. And I need a vertical image, right? So we have some vertical images over here. We could take this guy in the center. This guy's very centered, but don't forget you still have to place some text. So you can choose more than one image. Now, that doesn't mean I can't take this horizontal image, which if I click on the right-hand side here, I can get quite a large image. So I'll have enough if I crop this, just the middle. Maybe I just want to crop out the middle here. So I'm going to click my free download on the original size, and what I can do is that's just going to be sitting on my desktop or in my downloads folder now. But I'm going to choose more than one image to play with because, you know, we have some choices. Our client's likely going to change their mind as well. This one could work because you can see we have room to put a headline and a subhead. We even have room to place a logo over top of her foot at the bottom. So let's see what wow, that's a really great size image. So we're going to get the large one and we're going to download that one as well. So one's called Academy, one's called Accomplishment. Great. And so now I have the two images that I'm going to work with. So back to InDesign. I'm now going to place that image in here. So I have a frame. It's still selected. If you have deselected that frame with your selection tool, make sure you have that frame selected. You can tell because you get these awesome anchor points. And what we're going to do is do File Place or Control D. And where did I download that? So the nice thing about InDesign is I've got stuff in my download folder. I've got stuff in two other folders. It's all over the place. But when I save this file, I can save this file by going under File and choosing Package. Package is going to collect all my fonts and all my images and put it in one handy folder for me. So I'm going to have to go to my downloads folder to locate these brand new images I just downloaded. So here we go. And I'm going to choose this one first. Notice I'm only going to be able to use the center panel or something off to the side. So I'm going to open that. And you can see it's far too large for my frame here. So the first thing I'm going to do is across the top of my screen, almost more than 3/4 of the way over, right above the word autofit are these two buttons. They're my favorite buttons added, you know, InDesign when they updated this and added this feature. I was elated. This is such a handy tool. So if I put fit content proportionately, so if I hover over that, it says fit content. Well, it's going to take the entire picture and it's trying to fit the entire picture inside that frame. So obviously it's going to be too small. But if I want to fill the frame proportionately, it's going to make the picture fill the frame, but it's going to be in proportion so it won't be distorted. And there we go. I've now got the center of that frame. And if I zoom out a little bit, Control minus, and I click on this circular tab, it's going to show me this orange frame here. That's the picture inside the frame. So if I want to, I can move that picture over and choose another part of that frame, of that picture inside the frame. If I accidentally distort this, oops, well, that's not good. Look how horribly distorted that is. If I go back and click on the blue frame, I can simply click Fill Frame Proportionately again. Now I've fixed my error. So now this looks pretty good. It now fills the frame. It's to bleed. It's a good size. I'm going to Control 0 to fit back in frame. And now I'm going to go off to the side here, and I need what is your next step. And this text frame has to fit on top here. So I'm just going to make this bigger, Control Shift greater than. I'm going to put it on 2 lines. I like that. And I'm also going to change the font. So let's see, I'll take this one. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, that's not too bad. And I'm going to use the selection tool and move that over into place. And move that over. Okay, so what happened? It's sitting behind my picture. Well, that's why when you're using InDesign, as you place elements on your screen, they go in order of when you place them. So I placed my text box first, so common sense tells me when I put my picture on second, well, it's going to sit on top of my text. So while that text box is still selected, you can right-click and go to Arrange and bring it to the front. There we go. There it is. Now I cannot read it. So I'm going to have to do something to create contrast with that text. So what I am going to do, I'm going to move it down first of all. There we go. It still doesn't have enough space. So I'm going to make that a little bit bigger to fill my text box. Also, this line of text is too far away from this line of text. There's too much leading. Space between the lines is called leading. And where do I find that? Up here underneath the type size. So I'm just going to reduce that a bit by clicking on this little arrow to the left. There we go, and I move it up. Now, I can't really read it, so I think I'm going to go to swatches and change that to white. Ah, look how much more legible that is. Perfect. So now I'm going to use my selection tool. I'm going to click on these double arrows here to move that back over there. And now I need this text box sitting on top in this perfectly spaced area here. Oh, it doesn't show up. Once again, right click, or on your Mac, hold the Control key to get this menu. And we're going to scroll down to Arrange and bring it to front as well. There we go. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and get rid of that space in between. There we go. I'm not a big fan of this font. This is a scripty kind of handwritten font, so I think I might go with a sans serif, so a font with no feet. How about a canoe? I'm going to change the style of Helvetica Canoe. Let's see what condensed black looks like. Too heavy. The font above it is already heavy, so if I want a complementary, I choose the opposite. So if one's heavy, I'm going to go for something light. That's better. And I could put that on 3 lines or Control Shift less than, make that slightly smaller. And let's see what that looks like in white as well. Oh, that shows up quite nicely. All right, so now I'm going to move that down, move this down. I'm still going to do one more thing with this text. This is another reason why if you separate your text, you can control the effects that you add to any of your text. So what is your next step is a separate text box from this text box. And I'm just going to clean up my boxes here. Whoops. Control Z. I want to just make my box smaller. I don't need all that space. If I put a drop shadow on this box, if I had it connected to this box, there would be a drop shadow under this text and this text as well. But this way I can control just one. So I'm going to select this text box, and under the object menu, I can go to effects and choose drop shadow. Or you can right click on that as well and find the same menu. So under drop shadow, if I move this off to the side, I have to make sure the words drop shadow are selected in order to get this menu here. And I also, before I move that over there, in the bottom left-hand corner of all these boxes is this little preview button. So I'm going to turn that on. Aha, can you see this drop shadow? That's a great first step, but it's a little too far away. So I'm going to reduce it a little bit. Ah, there we go. That looks great. I can also change the opacity of the shadow. So maybe you only need a wee little bit. Maybe you want it to be stronger, so you can control that as well. And you can also control the size. So how much blur effect there is. So that has no blur effect. See, that's just a solid, almost like a duplication of the white, but just in black text. So the bigger the number here, and we're working in inches, so it's impossibly small numbers. So if I did 0.04 and turn preview on and off, there we go. So the blur isn't as soft, so you can change your numbers in here. And I'm just going to reduce the opacity of the look of that as well. All right, so now I like my drop shadow and how it's looking. And I can also, I have a bit more contrast between my text and this busy background. So it's so easy to read my text. All right, so I've now set up the first panel. We have separated our text out using our pasteboard by copying and pasting into separate text boxes. We've gone to pexels.com to select a photo, and we've set up our first panel. So now what we're going to do is replace this picture. Remember, you picked another photo. Maybe you're thinking, you know what, let's see what it looks like with another photo. This is working really well with the setup and this blank space here for reading my text. I also want to make sure I'm aligned with my guide, so I'm going to Control plus and zoom in. Oh, I'm not aligned. That's a big no-no. Make sure you're aligned with your guides. That's why they're there. All right, so that's looking good. Control 0 to see the whole thing. I have another picture I want to see what it looks like. So I've got this one, and I'm going to File, Save As, and I'm going to call this it's IC Brochure. I'm going to call it V1, as in version 1. And I'm going to put it in my brochure content folder. And now I'm going to try a V2, version 2. So I'm going to click on this image, and this is where another excellent toolbox is, and that's your links palette. In your links palette here, it's telling you which image you have selected here, where it falls on which page. But if I want to see what it looks like with that other image, I can click on this little relink button here. Or if you've got a really long list here and you don't want to scroll down to this little button, you can right click on that image and choose relink. And now I'm going to go find that downloaded image. And here she is. And I'm going to relink it to this image. And once again, using my, I don't want it to fit proportionately. I want it to fill proportionately. So there she is. Her hand's cut off in an odd spot. So I think I might click on the image and using my arrow keys, nudge her to the right a little bit. There we go. She's nicely standing. Look at that, right on top of the margin. And I'm going to move my text box up. So now I have version 1 and version 2. There we go. I might have to do something here, like add a drop shadow, right click, and effects, and add a drop shadow underneath that text. See how differently it looks from really bold, bigger text? So I'm going to have to play with the distance of that. So 0.5 and the size of that. Let's try 0.3. And if you have preview, turn it on and off. Whoops, there we go. And then you can see the effects of that. So that shows up a little bit better. Maybe I need to bold my text there. So that could be something else that I do, is select all the text, Control A, and maybe I'll choose regular. So it's slightly heavier font. There we go. That's much more legible. So legibility is key to these things. All right, so that's pretty awesome. You can, and then I'm going to File, Save this as V2. Now, by saving version 1 and version 2 at this point, here's the problem. We haven't set up any of our other text. So we could just select all of this, like so, by clicking and dragging over top, copying it, and pasting it back into version 1. All right, so I have 2 ways I can set up my text. This is looking good. And in the next video, we're going to explore setting up the text on all the other pages and adding our headshots along the left here with our graduate testimonials.